There's been a huge conflict involving Zamazamas or illegal miners underground. 87 illegal miners were arrested last week after at least 6 people were killed during a shootout between police officers, the Hawks, and the National Intervention Unit. Last week, it seems there was a conflict underground. In the end, around 500 people were eventually removed from where they were mining underground. David van Wyk is at the Benchmarks Foundation. He works with people involved in this. David, good afternoon to you. I mean, this is incredible. 500 people mining illegally underground, a massive conflict, people shooting at the police. What's really going on here? I mean, these are all of the dynamics that we have with illegal mining at the moment.
Well, I think what had happened in Orkney is that the mine attempted to close a ventilation shaft, which shaft was used by these miners to take water and food down to their compatriots underground. In June, if you will remember, there were some 20 bodies found after an underground gas explosion in the same area. And I participated in an interview with the premier of the province at the time, and he indicated that after discussions with the families of the miners who came from Lesotho, the families were under the impression that these people were recruited in Lesotho as if they were coming to work in a normal mine. Now, this is the problem. You have a lot of what we call ghost mining taking place. It's something that has happened since the 1960s, in fact. And the ghost mining is when there are teams of workers underground that work parallel to the formal mine workers. And very often the ghost miners are employed by syndicates. Sometimes the syndicates even involve mine management. And these workers are paid about 50% of the normal wages of a mine worker. They don't belong to any unions, so they're not likely to strike. They don't have pension funds and they don't have medical aid and so on. So they're really ultra cheap, super exploited labor. Now, if you want to stop this, you're going to have to get at the syndicates who actually recruit them in Lesotho and bring them to South Africa through the borders and deploy them in the mines in South Africa parallel to the operational mines. Mines like Blyvoor and so on the far west rand are also prone to this sort of thing, as well as mines in the Welkom area and so on. You know, so you have these incidents happening, either large numbers of people dying in gas explosions underground or people dying when there are shootouts. You'll remember some years ago there was a big shootout also on the East Rand between these illegal miners and the police in that particular area. But we must distinguish between these guys and those people who are mining abandoned mines, of which there are 6,000 abandoned mines. And so the picture that I'm creating for you here is of a Department of Mineral Resources that is not actually regulating and managing the industry particularly well. And there really is need for law and regulation to take place and for the laws actually to be enforced, including the mine closure laws in the country, because you can actually very often also access a legal licensed mining operation through closed and abandoned and derelict shafts and so on as well, because very often these shaft systems are interconnected underground.
It's really incredible. I mean, how high are the stakes here? You talk about people earning a salary of 50% of that of a miner. So maybe they're earning 5,000, 6,000 rand a month. They're putting their lives in just the most incredible danger on a consistent, sustained basis. This shows you how desperate they are.
Well, I think that there's a high level of desperation because the mining industry is shrinking in this country. As minerals are not renewable, and so the big mining companies are all leaving. AngloGold Ashanti has left, BHP Billiton has left. It's possible that Anglo American will be leaving soon, and fund managers tell me that all the big mines, the big monopoly companies will have left South Africa by 2025. And they will have sold off to juniors, sort of medium-scale, small-scale mining operations and so on, that basically run on very low budgets and therefore low profit margins and so on, and therefore they cut costs quite a lot. For example, the ventilation shaft should not be unsecured, for people to be able to get into that mining operation and so on. So what we are seeing all along the Rand, all the way from Nigel through to Orkney down to Welkom, is a mining industry that is slowly disintegrating and going to ever smaller owners who are less and less capable not only of sustaining health and safety standards, but also of actually rehabilitating and closing these mines properly. And unless we plan for these sorts of things, and we plan for a downscaling of the mining industry in South Africa, especially the gold mining industry, we are going to get increasingly bad events like this happening with these syndicates and so on that are operational and that are recruiting these mine workers and bringing them to South Africa and putting their lives at risk and so on. You know, it's a bit like the drug trade. You kill the person who's using the drugs, but you're not actually killing the person, the syndicate that is bringing in the drugs and that is trading the drugs. Most of this gold finds its way into the formal system where it's processed and smelted and so on and exported from the country. Surely we need to go after the guys in Sandton rather than the guys that are underground. We can stop the guys underground if they are starved of any income from the guys who are operating the syndicates in Sandton.
Okay, I mean, I hear the point that you're making. So if this were legalized, would it really change the economics? Now, it might reduce the conflict between different groups of illegal mining groups, let me call them that. But would it actually change the economics fundamentally? I don't know if it really would.
Well, I think two things. First of all, illegal mining where you have ghost workers operating parallel to normal mine workers, that should be illegal. And that should be shut down. Where guys are doing survival mining on old mine dumps and things like that, that should be legalized. And then you create a centralized buying agency that buys the mineral from them to cut out the syndicate buyers that are there at the moment, the guys who put the gun against the Zama's head and say, you will sell it to me at this price or else I shoot you. You know, so basically it's also, again, we can look at the drug trade. We can look at Portugal, for example, where drugs were legalized and the drug problem has now disappeared because the guys who are addicted can get their drugs from the state and it can be done in a controlled manner, and the gangs and the mafia and everyone else is removed from the equation. I think in the South African mining context, we need to remove the syndicates from the equation. But again, like I say, we must distinguish between survival miners and who are operating on abandoned mine sites and those who are operating in legal mine sites. Those who are operating in legal mine sites must be stopped. And we must look at mine management, and we must look at the syndicates and the police and everybody else who is involved in the process of sustaining these syndicates.
David van Wyk from the Benchmarks Foundation, I do appreciate the time this afternoon on Newsfeed. Thanks very much indeed. Well,